So you'll need a brick. I'm going to get you to just put that down to start off with. And we're going to just open up the pelvic area. So I always like to start with a bit of activation. Take your feet wideish, rock from side to side like so, stretching out your toes, feeling that kind of massage across the soles of your feet. And then taking your pelvis around, starting off in little kind of circles, and then making the circles a bit bigger. Really super important to get the breath here into this area underneath the armpits, using your diaphragm. So taking breaths down and towards your belly and then out to the sides and then upwards. And as you breathe out, just kind of letting the breath pour out of you. I find it helps if I take my hands up, shoulders down, but hands up, create a bit more space here. Smooth, long breaths in, and try sighing the breath out to start off with. Good. Maybe you can take the arms up, shoulders down, and then the other way with the pelvis, getting that lovely vascular flow around the organs. Fantastic. And then just hands behind the head, elbows back, take the weight into one leg. And I'm just going to get you to draw your knee across. So get a bit of movement into the hip joint there, rotating muscles around the hip. Keep breathing, stretching the elbows back slightly, pressing your head into your hands. And then do that on the other side. Good. And we're going to use the hands as well. So same action with the legs, but this time you're just taking the hands across the midline of the body. So we start to mobilize the thoracic spine. So that just helps us with our diaphragmatic breathing, keeping this area mobilized. And by doing this little Elvis twist, we're going right deep into the muscles that stabilize around the pelvic floor. So getting a little bit of movement here, warming up, breathing. And then the other side, loosening, loosening, loosening. Good. That's the way. And then coming down with your feet wide again, take your tail behind you and switch it from side to side. So again, going right deep into the hip joints, starting to open up the sitting bones so that we stretch the back of the pelvic floor, swishing from side to side. And then see if you can switch slower, but further. So like this, right across. So you start to slide into these adductor muscles, these inner thigh muscles, right across. Dynamically to start off with. Now once we got a bit of warmth into these muscles, we'll pause the stretch. So sliding over, pausing with knee directly on top of ankle, pull these toes back. So lean your chest forward, but keep your upper back muscles active. So not rounded, we're quite straight through the spine. Rub these inner thigh muscles. Right up into the groin. And then just give your toes a little squeeze and then pull them back. Little squeeze, pull them back, and little squeeze, pull them back. So we really want to keep our feet nice and active. Swish your tail from side to side, keeping the sitting bones wide behind you, and then swish over to the other side. So toes up, and then rubbing this inner thigh, these adductor muscles. So for functional pelvic floor muscles, we really need to make sure that our hamstrings, our adductors, hips, all of these stabilizing muscles around the pelvis are functional. So that means long as well as strong. Beautiful. Come back into your sort of rest pose here. Shoulders away from ears. Lift your tail and then tuck your tail. Breathe in as you lift it and breathe out as you tuck it, so that we create this activation of the breath, the diaphragm, and the pelvic diaphragm together. Once you've got the pattern with your pelvis, start to lift all the way up through to the crown of the head. So really round your spine and then lift the chest. Round the spine, all the breath out of you, lift the chest. Slow, exaggerated cat-cow movement. Pulling the breath into you and then pushing the breath out of you. And then let's just pause here again. Drop the shoulders. So drop one shoulder across the body. Again, we're getting right here into the thoracic spine area. Coming into the center, drop down. So we're exhaling. Keep the knees wide. Gentle pressure out with the hand. We also stretch those inner thigh muscles. Loosen your jaw as you sigh the breath out. Like that. Slowly roll yourself up. We're just going to mobilize the shoulders as well. So hands on shoulders like so. Elbows in and back. Elbows in and back. So just nice mobilizing circles. Get those rotator muscles warmed up around the shoulder joints, just like we did on the hip joints. Up and back. Up and back. Wonderful. Now take one hand. So I'm going to grab my right hand onto my left wrist. Pull it up towards the ceiling. And then press down through the left foot. So as you push down through the left foot, pull up with the wrist. Start to spread your ribs apart. Keep pressing down with the left foot. And as you draw up with the left wrist, give yourself a little tilt over to the side. So hip drifting over to the left side. Now with a nice relaxed jaw, breathe deeply underneath the armpit into this area. See if you can send the breath right down here. So often the constriction that we find in our pelvis has absolutely everything to do with the constriction of the diaphragm. So when we start to mobilize and open up the side waist like this, it can really help us. And then bend the knees, tummy button to spine, coming up and over to the other side. So pushing down through that right foot, up and over. Shoulder away from ears, pushing down, up and over. Keep breathing. Try not to lean forward. Try to be as if you're between two planes of glass. Good, and slowly coming down again. Just give yourself a swish with your arms. Let it all loosen up. I'm going to get you to come against the wall now. Good. So first of all, just taking one hand onto the wall. So working these pectoral muscles. One hand onto the wall, knee close into the wall. So foot almost touching the wall. And hand just behind you, elbow down. So it's about that height, not here, not down there. Now you want to drop the knee towards the wall and start to breathe deeply again. So now we're getting the stretch, not just here, but all the way down here. So we really get that deep, full sort of muscle fiber opening sensation, quite strong. You can add to this by turning your head slightly to create a bit of a twist as well. So knee dropping in, and as you breathe, see if you can feel like you're flaring your ribs towards the wall. So it's a very subtle expansion towards the wall, slight lateral stretch. Good. Ooh. Jaw relaxed. That tells the rest of the body to start relaxing and opening. And then just try that on the other side. So give that shoulder a release. Hopefully it feels a bit more open. I do it on this wall here. So foot towards the wall, knee dropping in towards the wall, hand behind you. You start to drift the knee into the wall so that your ribs, as you breathe, can feel like they're just kind of drifting towards the wall, and you might turn your head a little bit. Don't worry if that doesn't work for you. Just see as you breathe deeply. We're looking for that expansion, like literally the muscle fibers as we're breathing, starting to spread out, decongest. Beautiful. That's it. And then just give that shoulder a nice rinse. So come over to your bit of wall, come into a tabletop, fingertips are on the wall, but wrists are off the wall. So you can, almost like you're holding an egg like that. And then feet directly underneath the pelvis. So not too far back, not like that. We're not in here, directly under the pelvis. You want to push down and out with your feet and extend the legs as much as you can without it being a strain, but we do want to get a hamstring stretch here. And we're aiming to spread the sitting bones. So it helps if you turn your toes ever so slightly inwards, like a pigeon, just a tiny bit inwards, and you'll find your sitting bones spread a little bit more. So the figure of 8 muscle that goes from one sitting bone to the other gets this kind of lengthening stretch. Shoulders are rolling away from your ears. Crown of the head moving towards the wall. So it feels like your spine is being stretched. And imagine you've got your tail gently being pulled behind you. Base the rib cage is slightly in. So don't flare your back. You're quite active through core and your multifidi back muscles. Now we're going to do a little bit more opening on the side of the body. So take your right hand just over towards your left hand, slightly higher, and then bend your left knee and let your right hip drift back. So it's a similar stretch to what we did before, a little bit stronger. So we're going right down here, almost into the IT band down the side of the pelvis. All this kind of fascial stretching where we open up the fascia underneath the skin surface. Really important for overall pelvic health. So come back into the center and then drift your left hand over to the right side, bending that right knee and letting the left hip drop back. Again, you're using your deep full breath to open those muscle fibers, to go deeper into the stretch. Good, bending and then slowly coming up. Just going to open up the calf muscles and the hamstring. So hands flat on the wall, left foot forward, right foot back. Start off by pressing the wall away and dropping the heel down. Come up onto the ball of the foot and then drop it down. So do this dynamically a couple of times. And then pausing here. Imagine your whole calf muscle is melting down through the Achilles down towards the ground. At the same time, press your hands firmly into the wall. And if it's appropriate for you today, breathing out like you are blowing out a candle and drawing up as if you're wearing tight, high-waisted jeans, zipping upwards. Switching on core, so it's like zipping in and up. And releasing down, zipping in and up. That's the sensation, as if all of your corsetory muscles are drawing in towards your spine, slightly up towards your ribs. So when we connect our hands either together or against the wall like this, we have a much better activation of our whole corset area. Good. And then just hip flexors. So slide your foot back a little bit, heel is up. Draw yourself towards the wall until you feel the stretch in your quadriceps and your hip flexors, these psoas muscles. And shoulders down. This time we want to change the breath to a relaxed breath. So it's not an activation, it's a releasing breath. The longer the exhale, the better. You might feel you want to extend up into a little bit of a whole front line of the body extension, only if that feels okay in your lower back. It's more about space between the vertebrae. Very good. Slowly coming back, swap feet. Right foot forward, left foot back. So just dynamically, first of all, we want to get those feet nice and mobile. So sliding up and down across the sole of the foot, pressing down, now starting to drop that calf muscles down through the Achilles, down into the ground. Then starting the activation through those core muscles. So we're using the breath out, zipping up, release, zipping up, release, zipping up, release. And then try keeping that zipping up, just breathing out, puffy breath, zipping up, zipping up. Good. So we can afford to get these big belly muscles, like the calf and like the hip muscles, give them a deep, full stretch. And then we'll come onto the ball of the foot, drifting forward, knee close to the wall, fingertips lifting, maybe, see how that feels, maybe even coming off the wall, so we get that lovely expansion, stretch. See if you can breathe in deeply through the back of your nostrils. So rather than sniffing, you want to pull the breath right through the back of your nostrils so we fill the lungs completely. That's the way. And then coming in, just turning around, you'll need your brick. So have a brick close by. You could use a bolster instead if you haven't got a brick. So first of all, we're going to open up the back of the pelvic floor, coming into malasana, a squat. So take your sitting bones and walk them up the wall, like one at a time, so you can feel the bones under your bum moving until you feel a stretch in your hamstrings here. And then just pausing, I'm going to use my brick just to lean on here, pausing here for a moment. And take some breaths so that you feel like you're feeding your breath into the whole pelvic area. Lower belly is relaxed, sitting bones are wide. Good. I'm going to get you to do a little bit of a release on your shoulders at the same time. So just dropping one down, rinsing, and then the other one down. So interesting how when we start to get tight and constricted around the thoracic area, around our shoulders, when our breathing becomes constricted, we often end up having, I was going to say complementary, it's not complementary, issues with the pelvic floor area as well. Pain and discomfort. All right, so slide yourself down. So we're coming a little bit deeper. You might take the brick and just place it underneath your sitting bones, if that's comfortable. If it's not, you're just going to have to lean into the wall instead. But if it's comfortable, you can kind of just sort of lean on it and then take your forearms and gently press outwards. Now, rather than squeezing upwards straight away with your pelvic floor, see if you can relax it. And then in this position, we're focusing on the urethra at the front. Draw in and up and then release. Draw in and up and then release. In and up, release. Try doing it like this. You will feel some activation around the anus as well, but with this pubic bone tilted down, I'm trying to get you to focus on the front. In and up, release. In and up, release. Okay, so we're going to do that in a minute with using our adductors as well. For the moment, come down, put your hip against the wall, roll yourself onto your back, legs up the wall. I'm just going to switch on the glutes here. So feet on the wall, you want to push the wall away and come up so you can feel your glutes, and then roll back down again. So push the wall away, feel your glutes activating, roll back down. Now do it on a breath out. So we get a bit of a vacuum all the way upwards, operating quite deep into the pelvic bowl, and then releasing down. Breathing out and releasing down. Now, take your brick between your thighs, same action, but a little bit of a squeeze inwards on the brick. So squeezing, lifting, and then releasing down. Breathing out to squeeze and lift, and release. Again, squeeze and lift, and squeeze and lift. Now take your brick and just place it underneath your pelvis. So actually, let's start on the flatter side. Like I said, if you haven't got a brick, just use a firm pillow. That would be absolutely fine, just to give your pelvis a little bit of height so that our organs can drop away from the pelvic floor. It just helps us to activate pelvic floor muscles, but also release pelvic floor muscles a bit more easily. So in this position, I'm going to get you to start to draw in and up through the pelvic floor on that activation breath, so you can feel a little bit of a zipping up motion towards your rib cage, and then release, always starting from the four corners of the pelvic floor, drawing in towards the midline, the vagina, and then drawing up through the vagina, through the cervix towards your tummy button, and then releasing down. So it's like you've got those tight high-waisted jeans which start sort of underneath the pubic bone. Exhaling up, releasing down. Now this time as you exhale up, pause there, keep the activation. See if you can draw the side waist in slightly up. So it's like your corset muscles are just kind of constricting inwards. Keep breathing out. And then releasing. Take your knees as wide as you can. If you haven't got enough wall space, try taking your toes together and just gently taking your knees out like so. Otherwise, knees wider like a frog. And we just want to release those inner thigh muscles. So I like to take the hands and just massage outwards, 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 like so. So release these guys. Now, take one foot up towards the ceiling. If you have a strap, it's great to use that just to pull the ball of the foot down. If you don't worry, we're just going to use the heel pushing away from us and the toes coming down, and then rub the back of your legs. At the same time as you drift those toes sort of that way and heel up towards the ceiling, press the back of your pelvis into your brick. So you're pushing your sacrum, the back of your pelvis, downwards, backwards. At the same time, you're lengthening through the heel. And that's going to give us a much more powerful hamstring stretch. Turning the toes slightly out to the side to get that nervy stretch on the outside of the leg. So heels slightly towards my left shoulder, toes slightly towards my right shoulder. That's a nasty one. And then taking the ankle on top of the left knee, sliding that left foot down the wall until you feel that stretch right deep here into your glutes, going down into these adductors, down to the hamstrings, pelvic floor nice and relaxed. So it's like pigeon pose, but upside down. Try taking the hands above the head if you can. So again, we get the space underneath the armpits to really breathe into these intercostal muscles. Wriggle your jaw. Do a couple of big yawning movements with your mouth. And then try doing horse lips like this. So when we really relax the musculature around the mouth, we also find that we have a corresponding release around the pelvic floor. Okay, other side. So left foot up towards the ceiling, heel pushing away, toes nice and active, pushing the back of the pelvis down again onto your prop. Rub the back of the leg, get a bit of heat into your hamstring. Turning the toes outwards, the heel towards the right shoulder, toes towards the left shoulder, rubbing the outside of your leg. Lovely. And then taking that ankle on top of the knee, sliding the knee down so we go right deep into that glute area, into the hip area. Good. Arms out to the side or up above. This time, do 3 buzzy bee breaths out. So the buzzy bee breath is the fastest way I know of going into that parasympathetic nervous system. And it's when we're in that state that we find that healing takes place. So you breathe in deeply through the back of your nostrils down to the bottom of your lungs. And then as you breathe out, you create a humming sound or buzzing sound like a bee. And as you create the sound, see if you can gently let that knee drop out a little bit further. Beautiful. All right, so slowly coming down, shuffle yourself back onto your mat. We're going to do a bit more opening up. So feet directly underneath the knees. Push the floor away, slide yourself up almost into a bridge, slide back down again. Push the floor away. You're activating the hamstrings, the glutes rolling up the back, and then back down again. So you want to create a bit of space between the vertebrae. And as we breathe in and lift, this time pause. Just pause here, feeling the opening of these hip flexors, sending the knees away from you. Keep your glutes active. Now draw your shoulders slightly underneath your body and pause here. Now, if you want to try this, it's quite nice to take your brick, if you've got a brick, and place it underneath your bottom. So underneath your sacrum, so not under your bottom's here, sacrum. Now, I've got the high side going on here, but if that's too high, go on the middle side and otherwise on the flat side. If you don't have a brick, just slide a bolster or a firm pillow underneath your back. So we want to give ourselves an opportunity to really open the front end of the body and to get a bit of expansion here, expansion in the ribs as well. If you are doing this position, it's quite nice just to kind of drape, almost like you're, like a sheet draping over the clothes horse. Very floppy, drapey. That's the way. And then pushing the floor away, slowly coming down, take your shoulders away, slowly come down one vertebra at a time. So kind of shuffle your shoulders away. Very slowly, letting your back settle. Good. Arms out to the side. I'm going to give you a little twist here. So first of all, feet wide and knees just dropping one side and then the other. One side and then the other. And then bring your knees up towards your chest. Just give yourself a little circle here. Massaging these around one direction and then the other direction. And then you might need your brick. We're going to drop the knees over to one side. So if your knees don't easily come to the ground, put the brick underneath your knees. And again, mobilization through here is going to help us down here. So coming into a twist, breathing in, breathing out. Now have a go, gathering pelvic floor muscles and zipping upwards. And as you breathe out, squeezing your corsatory muscles in and slightly up. So this is going to help us with our digestion as well. Constipation is the #1 driver of incontinence, the #1 driver. So really what we eat and twists like this, how much hydration we have, using a squatty potty, all of these things super important. So little squeeze and lifts in the twist, and then let your belly go and just do a couple of lovely full breaths where everything's been relaxed. And then up and over, other side, take your brick with you if knees don't come all the way down. Turning the head. So we're looking initially for the mobilization here, mid-back. But then let's also work a little bit lower and around the intestine. So as you exhale, pelvic floor lifting, so activation, kind of feels like if you had a tampon in and it's dropped too low, you want to draw in through your vaginal muscles upwards and then draw in your corsatory muscles inwards towards your spine, breathing out. And then just let that go, nice and relaxed. Good, and then coming back, take your brick or your bolster, whatever, underneath you again, so that we've got a little bit of height once again underneath our pelvises. We're going to breathe out, all the way out, so that everything draws in and up. And at the end of the exhalation, see if without breathing in, you can flare your ribs out to the sides. And so you have a little bit more of a scoop here. And then just let everything relax. And take a couple of breaths. So, nice soft belly to start off with. You breathe in, flare the ribs out to the side, everything relaxes, 360 breath in. As you breathe out, all the breath comes out of your lungs, absolutely. That's it. And try that one more time. So starting off from a very relaxed belly, full breath, soft down here. Breathing in, big 360 breath. Breathing out completely. No puff left in your lungs at all. And then see if you can flare your ribs, scoop your lower belly, feel your pelvic floor lifting. And as soon as you need to breathe, soften your belly, soften the ribs. Good. Take the knees up towards the ceiling. Big circles with those knees, so rotate the muscles again. And then baby pose, but with a bit of a flop underneath the pelvis. So feet up towards the ceiling, knees nice and wide, grabbing hold of your calf muscles, your ankles, maybe even your feet. I'm just going to move this brick a bit. It's not comfortable. So make sure your brick's comfy. And we're trying to get the upper body printing into the ground. So we have oxytocin receptors at the top of our shoulders here. So print those into the ground. Get a bit of pressure there. Chin's drawn in. Now see if you can take the Ujjayi breath. So the slightly constricted breathing, where there's a little bit of sound to your breath. It's like a Darth Vader sound, or a very soft sound of the ocean going up and down a beach. Filling the lungs completely. Seeing if you can send the breath into the lower belly, down. It's called the 360 breathing. So the whole of the bottom part of your body feels like it's expanding, and then slightly contracting in and expanding more and slightly constricting in just a little bit. And you might find your heels want to drift out. So if they want to, and you want to extend your legs to get into those hamstrings and even deeper into the adductor muscles, then have a go. Full exhalation, all the breath out of your lungs. Shoulders nice and relaxed. See if you can create a real heaviness with your tongue in your mouth and cheeks nice and soft. Yeah, and then last of all, legs up towards the ceiling, arms up towards the ceiling. Give everything a shake, literally a vibration. So this goes right down into the pelvic floor, right down into the shoulders. You can let your jaw be nice and loose as well. Maybe make a bit of noise on the exhalation. Just gets the prana, the life force, kind of mobilizing around the body. Fantastic. Well done. So take your brick away. Bring your right knee up towards your chest. Stretch out through the left side. Whole body stretch. Take a nice yawning deep breath in. And as you sigh out, swap to the other side. Lengthening fingers and toes away from each other. Breathing in deeply. And then going, one hand on heart, one hand on lower belly, just above the bladder. Let your feet come together and knees out to the side. If that doesn't feel comfortable, just let your feet be really wide, like so, with your toes dropping outwards. And closing the eyes and just taking a moment to feel underneath the skin surface of the whole of this body. As you breathe out, feel like your heart energy is flowing down into the pelvic bowl, down to your lower hand. And then as you breathe in, drawing back up again. And breathing out, dropping down. So it feels almost like a bicycle chain of this heart energy, this love, this self-care, just flowing around the body. And mentally saying to your body, thank you. Just thank you, thank you, thank you for all that your body does for you. And well done for taking this time just to stretch, release, calm down, activate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, ladies, I'm going to leave it there. So bringing your knees together, give yourself a little hug into a ball, rock and roll up your spine, rebooting the central nervous system. Maybe come and sit for a moment. And sit on my bricks. So I've got a little bit of an anterior tilt through